Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sorry, the board game that we did for our project here. My name is Marissa. We have Tongue and Hater with us today as well. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the user experience kind of expected in this board game. To start it off, the objective of the board game is to be the first player with all of your 4 pawns from your color start into your color home. It's a chance-based game. You draw a card, you move with that card, and you don't know what you're going to get until you get it. So the strategy of the game is in the moment, not 4 steps ahead. Into the next slide, I wanted to explain to you guys the cards, what they kind of do. So the number 1 card will either let you take your pawn out of the start or move a pawn forward 1 space. Similarly with 2, it will let you take a pawn out of the start or move forward 2 spaces. And then the nice thing about number 2 is you get to draw again and move whatever the value it says off of that card. Card number 3, you get to move forward 3 spaces. 4, you get to move your pawn backwards 4 spaces. 5, you get to move your pawn forward 5 spaces. 7 is a little more interesting. So either you move 1 pawn forward 7 spaces, or you split them between 2 pawns, all adding up to 7. So you can move a pawn 2 and move the other one 5. 8 is a simple one. You just move 8 spaces forward. 10, you will either move 1 pawn forward or 1 pawn backwards 1 space. 11 is a very interesting one. It's kind of similar to Sorry, but you move 1 pawn forward 11 spaces, or you switch a pawn, one of your pawns, with any of your opponents that are on the board. 12 is simple. It just move 12 spaces forward. And then Sorry is very much the whole point of the game. Sorry will take a pawn from your starting position, place it on a space that is occupied by any opponent, and bump them right back to their start. That is the cards explained. That is everything that you will see in Hater's example coming up of how the game will be played. Hater, I'll pass it on to you.
All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen here. And so we just ran the game GUI and it's gonna come up with this option with how many players we want. Let's start off with 2. And will the AI be joining? Let's say false for now. So here we have our GUI. We have the pawns and their respective colors and the card deck in the middle. So to start by playing, you gotta click on the deck here and it will show us which card we get. So 4, no one can move. So now yellow's turn. 0, no one can move. Still. 5. And finally, we got to move. So as you can see, it highlights the player that's turn it is and which pawns they can choose. So let's start off by moving that one. 10, yellow can't move. 12, move forward 12. 7, once again, can't move. 5, we can move 5. 0, so we have the Sorry card here. As you can see, it highlights all of our available players. We can click it, and then it shows which opponents we can switch. So let's take his spot and send him back to home. As you can see right there, we have yellow here now, and the blue is now home. So 7 can't move. 1, let's take another one out of home. 4 can't move. 8, move 8 spaces. Another 8. 2, let's take another one out. Lots of 8s here. 3, move 3. 0, we can once again, let's get. And as you can see, we can slowly start moving back into our home here since he was behind. If we try to move him, we actually lose our turn because it's not a valid move. It has to be exactly 4 spaces. So 1, try and get him back home. 11. So 11 is a choice card, but since there are no other blue pawns or any opponent pawns in play, I have no other choice but to move 11 forward, and that's what the game does. Once again, this will just do 11 forward. Hopefully we can get some of these guys out. As you can see, that was a 4. Now I have to move 4 back. There you go. Finally got someone out. 10. I chose this pawn, but since 10 is invalid here, we can't move 10 spaces. We have to move back 1. 11. And now you can see which we can either move here or switch with one of these pawns and switch places. So yellow should be going back there, and we took his place. Another 11. Let's switch right back. 7 is another choice card, but since we only have one pawn in play, we can't really split any moves. 12, not a valid move. 4, move 4 back. And 1, get him out. Let's switch here. Move 5. Let's switch back here. I do want to show you guys 7. So hopefully we can get that here. And here we finally got a 7. So we click it. We can. It shows how many spaces we can move, a total of 7. Or let's say we only want to move 2 for this pawn. Then the rest, we have 5 more moves left. And let's send them over to this pawn. As you can see, it moved 5. This one moved 2. So I'll be going over the AI now, just to show. So let's say 1 player, true. And 10, no one goes. 5, no one can go. Keep going until you get. And you see, I quickly went over it, but the card was 1, and the AI actually took it out without me clicking on it. So it has nothing to move. 7, 8, took its move. 0, once again, sorry. And yeah, as you can see, the AI does move by itself. And last thing I am going to go over is just showing our old text-based application still runs. So here we can see again how many players to AI. I don't know. Let's choose 0 for blue. Sorry. Yeah. And player 2, let's choose 1. As you can see, just like before, it keeps going through until someone can move. Player 2 can move, and let's choose the pawn 0. And as you can see, it moved out, and we can keep going with that. And then 0, choose a pawn to switch with, let's say yellow, and 0. So everything still works as it should. And I'll pass it over to Tung to go over the code diagram. Tung?
Yes. Hi there, I'm Tung, and this is our class diagram. So compared to our last iteration, we do have a lot of changes, but that's mainly related to our game GUI, which is our GUI part of the program. So right here, this blue one are from our application package, and the O one is moved to another package called model. So we will go over all the classes in the application package. So this is our game GUI, the most important part of the GUI game application. So first, it will call for the setup controller, which right now will ask the player for the number of players that you want to play with, and also have a choice of playing with an AI player. So after we are done with the setup controller, the game GUI will generate a board, and that board is filled with visual element, which are the class we have, 3 class we have over here: pawn, tile, and zone. The tile inherited from the implement the rectangle from the Java MX element node. So it will draw the rectangle on the screen, which we have here is the tile on the board, which the pawn can move on. And the other two visual element we have is the pawn and the zone. The pawn, we can all know what that is. It's a pawn moving on the board and trying to get to the home. So the zone here, which I haven't explained, is what the visual element we have to represent the home and the starting point of the pawn. So why do we need it? Because it will show the pawn on it in a particular way that we're having right now. And that is, it will represent it in like a circle. But I think that has already been demonstrated in the example we have earlier. So I will go over the other thing that we have that haven't been shown, which is handle event click right here. This is really a really important part of the program, because this is how we handle the clicking on the visual element and have the program read it as input and return the movement at the pawn. So how it works is the handle event click, which in the game GUI has it has an instant variable called click handler, and basically for every turn it will get a current player. Yeah, this current player will change every turn, and then from there it will call for method on the human player to get the tile, get the pawn to, and from that information generate move to move the pawn across the board. And what do I mean by get the pawn and move? And that's what we have in the changes on human player. The human player have been changes to so that we can implement the GUI movement. So on human player, we have several new instant variables that related to the GUI input, which is current card GUI, movement, choosing move GUI, choosing pawn GUI, and move GUI and get move status. What these variables basically do is store the information on the current move that player is trying to do. So on the human player has several new methods related to this. First, we have the initiate move, which like take in the card that has been drawn in this turn and basically start the whole input reading on the event handler. And after that, every element click on the board will send a signal to the human player. And by signal here, I have 3 methods, which is choose pawn for like sending the signal of a friendly pawn, which is like the pawn of the current same color with the current player. Choose other pawn, which is choosing the pawn with the different color from the human player we're having. And also choose move, which is basically when you click on the tile, it will calculate the move. That is only used for specific card like 7, 10, or 11, where you have to choose between moving a certain tile or like choosing to move or either move or switch. So for highlighting, I have a new method called can be chosen, which will determine if the pawn will be highlighted or not. That is to help the player with to know what pawn to choose for the current move. Okay. Game configuration has also go through some change as well. So instead of the general pawn on board, I have created new one called pawn not safe, which will determine if the pawn is on the, it's like determine if you can switch with it or not, because the pawn not safe means that it is currently not in start, in home, or on the safe tile. This is just a change to help us with determining the validation of a move we have. So I think that's all the change we have right now on the class diagram. I will go back to Marisa for the challenge that we go through.
So just to kind of iterate on our talk about our challenges, we have the challenge. One of the major challenges was the click event. It's something that we haven't really gone into in the way that we dealt with it yet, and it was very interesting to implement that. Also, the time constraints with summer courses and working with GitHub, we had many challenges managing time over this project, and big ideas, not a lot of time to do them. For future implementation, we want to implement the AI choosing the card. Right now, you have to click to choose a card. We want to implement the AI just choosing the card and moving it in the future. We also want to add in more text on the cards to say what the card does. So it's kind of what I showed earlier, kind of just says what the cards does. We also will be implementing a player choice for color. So the player can choose if they want to be blue, green, red, or yellow. They can choose which color they would like to be. And then we will also look into adding multiple other colors based off hex codes for future, if you want to be purple or whatever other color you choose, you can be that color. So I just want to say thank you for your time in viewing our presentation, and we hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully we get to showcase a little more at a later time.